In the Roman world, crucifixion was the most ubiquitous method of public execution of a criminal. Everybody knew what it was. If you were on your way into Rome on occasion, there would be crosses along the side of the road so that it was known. It was known what would happen to convicted criminals in the Roman Empire. Everybody recognized a cross, and until even just the last 100 years or so, the cross has still been one of the most recognized symbols in the entirety of the human world. Now, you could make a case that there are certain brands that have surpassed it in recognizability, but that's a recent phenomenon. For most of human history, the Roman crucifix was one of the most recognizable symbols to all people. And what it stood for as a symbol was death. And that's it. For the longest time, the Roman cross stood for exactly one idea: death. Punishment by death of a convicted criminal. It was humiliating, it was excruciating, and it was designed to be both of those things, and it served its purpose extremely well. The cross only symbolized death until Jesus broke that mold. In C.S. Lewis's classic novel, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there is a place called the Stone Table. And the Stone Table was known to the inhabitants of that kingdom as a place of sacrifice and death. That is, until the king of that land, the great lion, allowed himself to be killed in the place of a child who had committed a seemingly small but nonetheless egregious sin against the land. And it was when the king himself put himself in the place of that child and was sacrificed on the stone table that the next morning the king was alive again, and the stone table broke with a crack so loud that it thundered through the land. It stood for death until it was broken by the perfect sacrifice of life. Now, don't get me wrong. The cross was horrible. It was a violent scene. It was mankind at their worst. But the cross doesn't only stand for something dark and terrible and scary anymore. It doesn't only stand for that. Because when Emmanuel, the great Lion of the tribe of Judah, the King of Kings, when he was killed on that device of death, he did not stay dead. And it was not only death that happened there, it was the gift of life for countless millions of others. He died on a Roman cross, true enough, but 3 days later the sunrise brought with it a fulfilled prophecy from the Psalms that said, "You will not abandon my soul to Sheol. You will not allow your Holy One to see corruption. You make known to me the path of life." And the great King of the universe sacrificed himself on that cross for me, for a child barely able to grasp the seriousness and the weight of my sin. Yes, he died, and yes, it was horrible, but when the sun rose on that Sunday morning, along with the sound of a large stone rolling away from the entrance to a tomb, there was the thunderous cracking of the entire idea of death that cross represented. Death, where is your victory? Death, where is your sting? Death is swallowed up in victory. Because the Lord gave his life for a child who barely understood what sin he had committed. And because of that, the sight of a Roman cross doesn't just mean death anymore. Now it stands for life in Jesus Christ. And so the Apostle Paul said, the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, the cross is the power of God to salvation. Jesus broke the cross. He broke the spirit of fear that it stood for. He broke the horrible picture of hatred that it painted. He broke the awful reality of me having to pay for my own sin. He broke that paradigm. He broke the human arrogance of those who killed him. He broke the yoke of slavery that was on all humanity because Jesus broke the power of death. I used to hear people say a lot that we shouldn't decorate with crosses and we shouldn't wear cross-shaped jewelry because that tries to make something pretty out of something that was ugly. But y'all, I got to tell you, the cross is a beautiful idea. It is the power of God to salvation to everyone who believes, the Jew first, and also the Greek, and also you, and also me. It is the power of God. Because yes, the cross was a picture of ugliness and death. That was true of it at one point, until Jesus rose on that Sunday morning and broke all of the cross's power. Until his sacrifice there showed God's perfect love. And his resurrection showed that love's greatest victory. Behold the man upon the cross. My sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed, I hear my own mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until all was accomplished. But his dying breath has brought me life when he said, "It is finished." And so I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and his resurrection. Indeed, how deep the Father's love for us. And so as we partake of the supper this morning, don't just mourn the death that was perpetrated there on the cross. Celebrate the power of God that is demonstrated there. For to us who are being saved, the cross is the power of God. Take the bread that Jesus broke. Drink of the blood that came from his broken body. And thank God for the cross that Jesus broke.